Welcome back to the CrossFit Games podcast. I'm your host, Chase Ingraham, and I have a very special guest, your 2021 male champion, Justin Medeiros. Thank you for joining the show, buddy. I can't wait to get into the CrossFit Games with you, but hey, man, what's the off-season like been for you so far?
Dude, it's been good. It's been a lot of nothing, which has been perfect.
As it should be, because you did a lot of something over the last year and a half just to get what you got this weekend. But man, first of all, congratulations. Thank you for being on the show. I can't wait to get into the weekend with you, but I have a fun statistic for you to start things off. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's hear it.
You are tied for the third most wins in the history of the CrossFit Games for the men's side.
That is an awesome statistic.
With one, but still, it's still the third most ever.
Hey, I like it. Hey, that's good for me.
You just had two dudes that happened to win 4 and then 5 and then just left a few for the rest of you guys. But
yeah,
I thought that'd be a pretty cool statistic. Tied for third all time for the men, man. Congratulations.
You don't got to tell like everyone else the other part. You just say I'm tied for third. So I like that.
You know, I'm just top three men ever. Well, hey, man, what a season it was for you from start to finish. But I want to talk all the way back to 2022 before we get into 2021. You get to the stage one of the semifinal, or the basically stage one of the CrossFit Games coming into that year. What were the expectations for you in stage one of 2020?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit different. It kind of changed throughout the year. I mean, that year, our goal was to make the CrossFit Games. And we decided we're going to do a sanctional every month until we make the CrossFit Games. So we signed up for like 6 or 7 of them. I was very lucky and qualified out of the first one I did in Ireland. And then I had like 8 months until, or longer than that, until we stage one. So it was a lot like of stuff going on, like everyone knew. But my expectation going in, I was like, dude, it would be sweet to get top 20 because they pay out the top 20. And I would be pretty freaking cool if you ask me. So I didn't really know what I was going to expect, but obviously I was going to be satisfied with top 20, but I was really shooting for that top 10 spot was my realistic goal. But as the weekend got on, that kind of shifted.
Yeah, a little bit, right? A little bit. So you qualified out of the Filthy 150, right? That was one of the first ones of the entire season in 2020. One of the very few that happened live. How much live competition experience did you have prior to the Filthy 150?
More than people think. I feel like a lot of people think that I've like been around for too long, but I've been competing in CrossFit for like a long time. I feel like I did Wadapalooza for 4 years.
Oh, wow, that many?
I did the teenage division twice, and then I did the RX division once, and then I made the elite division. I think that was 2016, 17, 18, 19. I did that. I did Granite Games twice. I made regionals in 17 and 18. I think that's it. But I been around and competed in quite a bit. So it's been, a lot of it was as a teenager and stuff like that. I was never able to qualify for the CrossFit Games, but I tried.
Right. I couldn't make it as a team. So when I went as an individual, I happened to get third and first in my first 2 attempts. No big deal. Well, that's cool, man. So you've been around the block, right? You've been around the block. And so now we go from live competition to online format finally after a tumultuous year that was 2020, that was stage one. And the way it was set up is, I mean, it was a hardcore just online qualifier, right? Where you knew where you stood every 2 events. Was that right? Did they kind of little preview after each one? What was that like coming, seeing how you stuck up with the first 2 and then what you were doing for the second 2? What was that whole process like for you?
Dude, I feel like I was in like one of the coolest positions because I was in Washington and in Pacific time, and that was the last time zone. So the training block was between, if you don't know how it worked, like everyone else, is the first training block was from 9 to 12, and you had to finish your 2 workouts in between there. And it was 9 to 12 in your time zone. Everyone around the world was doing the workouts in different times. So when I started at 9, there's people that have been done with the workout for the past 12 hours. You know what I mean? So that was really cool because I was the last time zone. So I'd finish my workout at like 11:45, and then I'm still sweating, like sitting there looking at the leaderboard to upload and see where I'm at. You know what I mean? So it was it was pretty cool to see that part of it from where I stood. So it was pretty cool. I remember looking at the first one, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be garbage, whatever it is, and I'm gonna be so far in last. And I was sitting in like fourth, like after the first two events, and I was like, holy shoot! I remember, and I've never considered myself like a strong guy, and I got third in that. I was like, I just beat Fraser. Oh my gosh!
One of the
So
very few to beat Matt Fraser in 2020 in any event. My goodness.
yeah, it was. He's like the pinnacle of where everyone's shooting for. The man was on another
Yeah, he
level.
definitely was, and he did it his own way in a certain way, and so you qualify for the CrossFit Games Stage 2 out of Stage 1, and now you get to go. I mean, think about it, your first year of the CrossFit Games, and you get to go to Aromas, right? The hallowed
Yeah.
ground that was the CrossFit Games. Some people have different feels for it. You know, Matt played it off. He's like, it's just a dirty ranch. I don't see what the big deal is. What was what was Aromas like for you?
Dude, it was awesome. I actually have had one experience there before. I took my level
Oh,
one at
really?
yeah, at the ranch. So it's cool. And like my grandpa lives like 30 minutes away from there, so it's kind of like the same area. So I mean, I love that place. It's like the mecca of CrossFit. You know what I mean? So it's super cool and like to go there. And I've always wished I was able to compete there. You know what I mean? And when they did that throwback in 2016, where they went and did that trail run, man, I was so jealous. I was like, that had to be so cool. And now we get to do a whole CrossFit Games there. It was super cool to be a part of that, because like I don't think that's ever going to happen again. You know what I mean? And to be a part of that was super special.
That was cool. And 2020 was it was a tough year, but it was a special year. And you know, you coming in as a rookie at the games scene your year, and then you take a podium position as that. And like anything, you know, you were that dark horse coming in. It's like, what's Justin Medeiros going to do? And then you did phenomenal there at Aromas. And then comes a new season, right? You've like I said, you've been competing. What, 2016 is really when you started? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've been competing since 2016, yet you've never had what I would consider expectations put on you.
Yeah.
What was that like going from 2020 podium, Matt leaving, and now 2021 is really open to anyone and with expectations for the first time in your career?
Yeah, man. I honestly was really nervous about it. I was like, especially getting later on in the 2021 season, it's like, okay, the person that got first is retired. The person that got second didn't qualify this year, and now I'm like the next guy up. And I'm like, dude, everyone's gonna be saying that like I should win the games and all this stuff, and I just didn't want that going on. And very thankfully, that was not the conversation. No one saying that I was gonna win. So it was pretty cool to kind of have that like still kind of what I felt was like underdog mentality, which was really different. I wasn't expecting it, but I was super happy about it. And yeah, it turned out to be really good.
Yeah, I was absolutely saying, I say this a lot in competition, that it's always easier to chase someone down than it is to run away, right? And it's
Yeah.
always easier to prove people wrong than prove people right. I feel like that. And a
Yeah,
lot of
and
times expectations will do that.
yeah, and like after the 2020 season, I feel like there was a lot of people also saying that it was a weird year, so that's why I did good.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like I had that riding on my back too. Like people say, "Oh, if it was a regular CrossFit Games season, he wouldn't have got third." You know, like that was also some of the talk, and I did not like that. I really wanted to go back into 2021 and be like, "No, like you're going to be seeing my name for the next few years and get used to it."
Yeah. So let's start there. Like, you come into 2021, you got the chatter there, and then you got, you know, the open comes around. It's 3 weeks. What is really your training timeline as far as ramping up and getting prepped throughout the season? How do you get prepared starting with the open?
Yeah, I mean, the Open is kind of like the kickoff of the season. I mean, you're not trying to peak for it, but it's like the first real taste of how the season's going to go. I know a lot of people do off-season like competitions. Like I'm doing Rogue this year, and I won't be doing anything else. Like there's still going to be like a long period of time off, and the Open is like when you start kicking it into gear, you kind of get faced a little bit when the season starts. So I just view that as like it's a competition. It's kind of dip your toes in the water and kind of see where you're at. I mean, it's a worldwide leaderboard, and kind of feel where your fitness is at in the beginning of the year, and kind of see where you're going to have to build to put yourself in a position to win at the end.
And I think it was a fun year because it was only 3 weeks, which was wonderful. As an affiliate owner, that was fantastic. Yeah. The pressure was really off because then we had quarterfinals. So we had this new quarterfinal series where the top 10% in every continent would advance forward. So you didn't really have the pressure of making, regionals like the old format was, and we had the quarterfinals set up. So, you said you're testing yourself and prepping through the open and just like get yourself in competition mode. What was the approach for quarterfinals for you?
Yeah, for me, I was a little irritated going into quarterfinals. I mean, I've never done good in the open. I mean, in a sense, like my best open place is like 60 something, I think,
It's
like
terrible.
overall.
Trash. You're trash.
Yeah, frustrated about that, and I feel like people say that it's a weakness of mine, and which it is. I mean, I've never done good, and obviously I wasn't trying to peak for it, but I obviously wanted to do good for it. I didn't retest any of the workouts or anything like that, but going into quarterfinals, I was like, no, like made, like, you know what I mean? And I went into quarterfinals, and I felt really fit. I competed really, really well, and I had a minute deduction on one of my times.
Oh, I forgot. What happened on that?
Really knew about that, but it was the very first workout, and it was my fault. You know what I mean? That's the standard. The standard for dumbbell hang cleans was like locked out on the bottom, and then heads of the dumbbell touch your shoulders. And to me, I took that as like this is my shoulder, instead of like this is my shoulder. So I was hitting here, and I talked about it. I was like, okay, I mean, this is my shoulder. I'm gonna hit it, and that's what I did for the workout. And then I got a minute deduction on it, which was really hurt because I feel like I still could have done it pretty quick if I just went all the way through. But my fault. I rode the line and it bit me.
Hey, that's competition, right? It's like, this is my shoulder. If I just look at
Yeah.
all the way through, you said 2, not over. And what was I supposed to do? Well, you weren't the only one that did that. There's a few people. I think Rich had it too. So, that's okay company that, get docked for there. You survived. So you survived quarterfinals in your minute deduction. And now we move to the semifinals, the first year of the semifinals. And this was really to replace regionals. And we lost regionals in 2019 and especially in 2020. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure on these events to deliver the one thing I felt like the community and the athletes, I really do feel like there was a much greater love and passion for regionals than almost there was the CrossFit Games. And that's not to take away from the CrossFit Games, but there was so much on the line there. And you competed in regionals and multiple big named off-season events. What was semifinals like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly an awesome experience. I loved it. I mean, even from the 2020 season, I competed in Ireland, and that was the in-person event I did. And then we went the whole year with no more in person. So it was pretty, like, it felt like so long. I feel like I've been working out in my gym the last year and a half with nobody. And the start of my semifinal was a max snatch. And like fans max lift. So the first workout was, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It was like it was unreal to see like all the fans there. Everyone was super into it, and like I'm pretty sure everybody in my heat PR'd their snatch. You know what I mean? It was
The final heat of the Mac at that one Mac snatch was unlike anything I've ever seen.
we had 6 people in the final heat hit 300. I was like, I PR'd my snatch, and I was like, that was my worst finish. I PR'd. I was like, what the heck, guys? It was pretty unreal.
That was pretty cool. And just talk about the Mac itself. From the outside looking in, that thing looked unbelievable top to bottom. How was the Mac for you?
Yeah, it was super cool. I mean, just walking in from check-in and seeing the competition floor, I was like, this is legit. You know what I mean? And seeing like Noble, the new sponsor, and that everywhere. Because I was like, the first time I really like saw it like everywhere, and so that was super cool. And I felt like I haven't had too much like really serious competition experience before. During that competition, like in Ireland, I was like so focused on like, hey, act like I've been here before, and I didn't like I soaked it in too much. So going into the MAC, I was like, okay, like I'm here to compete and I'm here to win, but I'm gonna kind of enjoy the moment. So it was super cool just to like finish a workout and then like walk up into the stands and say what's up to my family.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. And from the like workout standpoint, I think they were all super fun. Just having them all laid out. I think there were so many good races. Like if you watch it, it was like back and forth like the whole time. And yeah, it was really good. I mean, I really wanted to win. I was competing to win. I ended up in third, so it was pretty fun. There was a lot of like great competitors there.
I mean, what a stacked field that you had there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Ben Smith, Travis Mayer, Justin Medeiros, Scott Pinch. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is the one I would never want to go to as an individual, because it was almost like the old Central East days where it was just like every top 10 athlete is now here for 3 spots.
Yeah, dude, it was legit. I mean, after that, I got third, and I was super pumped. I like walked away from every workout and was like, that was the best it could have went. I did everything I needed to do. I like didn't win the workout most of the time, but I felt like that was perfect execution. So when I walked away from it, I got third. I was super pumped about it. I was like, hey, I did everything. I surprised myself in a lot of workouts, like certain workouts. If I did them the year before, I would have got crushed. And I felt like I performed really well. But then again, on the flip side, I was like, I just had a perfect run through and I got third. Okay, I don't know which one I should focus on. I mean, I focused on that I worked on a lot of my weaknesses and I did a lot better, but there was still a lot I needed to work on leading up to the games.
Yeah, and so we go from the MAC and we'll start looking at the CrossFit Games now. So you say you have a lot to work on. You've done a good job at attacking your weaknesses, things that held you back in the past. You focus a lot on your coach, Adam Neiffer. You spend a lot of time with him. I think Adam might be one of the most underappreciated CrossFit athletes of all time.
Yeah.
I know he was on team, but he did it for a decade, right?
Yeah.
The dude did it for a decade.
And I think the craziest thing about it is in 2010, he won, and it wasn't like he just skated through the next 10 years. Like, they got third in 2017. Like, they were super competitive for 10 years, which is insane. And they did it with people from their affiliate. Like, they didn't have like these huge super teams or anything. Like, it was crazy. I mean, I'm a little biased here,
Yeah,
but
hey,
he's
I'll
awesome.
say it for you. Like what Adam's done with Fort Vancouver is one of the more impressive feats as an individual with a team for that amount of time. Because listen, we've seen teams come and go. Like I get it, like the Mayhem thing, that's different, right? That's just on another level. But for Fort Vancouver to do that with homegrown athletes, and for him to be on the team every time, because it's like anything, right? It's a meritocracy, or it's like it's next man up, right? What have you done for me lately? And to survive that for a decade is also, I mean, to speak for itself. So you got him in your corner. What's it like having his background and history backing you in your training?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one part of it. The dude is awesome. I think just one of the awesome things about Adam is he wants me to win, I think, more than I want to win. Like and I think you need that with a coach, is you both want it more than anything. And I definitely have that for him. And he's super humble, and obviously he's super smart. He knows weightlifting, conditioning, CrossFit, and all that stuff, but he's also able to like take that step back and be like, okay, like there are better Olympic weightlifting coaches out there than like me or like himself he's talking about, and conditioning coaches. Like, hey, there's people out there that have stuff to offer, and he's humble enough to be like, hey, we're gonna go out and find that help and learn from it. And some coaches are out there and like, no, this is what we're doing. I know what's right, or whatever it is. And yeah, so it's super cool to have him, and we're just out there to learn and do what we think is right, and anything is up for conversation, which is really cool to have.
I think that's awesome. And that's really the sign of a true leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can admit you don't know something, or someone knows more than you. And my job is to get you that help. So one athlete in particular that he got you in touch with was the previous 5-time CrossFit Games champion, Matt Fraser. How did that conversation start?
Yeah, I mean, it honestly started back in the 2020 games. We were competitors, but like there was only 10 of us there and only 5 males, and it was COVID, and they made us all stay together. So it kind of like forced us to talk. So it was a lot different. I think at any other competition, I would have never got to know the athletes like I did. Because normally you finish a workout, you like walk away, like sit by your bag, eat your food, sleep, recover. And this time they're like, nope, you guys got to stay right here. And there was no like team athletes coming into the warm up area or any of that stuff. It was just us 10. We had bus rides together. So I got to talk to him and kind of know him through the 2020 games. And after the games, like, hey, man, if you ever need anything, sounding board for advice, just let me know. And I was like, wow, like, this is cool, but I'm probably never going to hear from this guy again.
Thanks for being cool, but
I was like, I don't even have his phone number. So, like, thanks, man. I appreciate it. You know what I mean? And it's kind of, oh, super nice guy, but I'm not going to hear from him. Like, I think he's just being nice. And then the week after, he sent me a message, DM on Instagram, gave me his phone number, and said the same thing again. I'm like, Matt Fraser is saying that, like, he wants to work out with me and help me out. I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, why would he do this for me? Like, I'm his competitor. And then obviously a couple months later, it came out that he was retiring. And I was like, oh, there it is. But he's an awesome dude, and just same thing. I mean, it's super cool. I knew him through media, and I was kind of like, how I explain it is like, if you like Ford, you like don't like Chevy, kind of thing. I grew up watching Rich Froning. No, Matt, you don't take away from Rich. Like, Rich Froning guy, and I never met either of the two, and then I finally got to meet Matt and sit down and talk to him, and I have so much respect for that guy now. It's unreal. He's really a good dude, and see what he's doing in the CrossFit space now that he's done competing is awesome to see.
it's been really cool. What particular things, and not to give away any strategies, because Matt did a very good job of playing things very close to the chest, is what little things did he help you with as far as how to attack weaknesses? Because I think one thing about Matt Fraser is that no one did that better and
Yeah.
more tenaciously than Matt.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
part of those did he help steer you in?
I'm trying to keep my secrets to
Okay,
myself.
all right. You don't have to tell me how you did it, but like, it was that part of the process is like, here's how.
It's just like the mindset and mentality and how, and like training smart and really realizing what that means. I feel like everyone knows or thinks that they're doing that, but they're not. You know what I mean? You think you work out a lot until you see someone that does twice as much, and you're like, oh wow, I'm not. You know what I mean? And like, the thing is, oh yeah, like I'm not good on the machines. Like I've been working on my machines, and I go there, and he's like, "That's all you're doing?" And I was like, "I thought that was a lot." All I'm doing, like I'm doing on these machines all day. You know what I mean? And it was just like a lot of eye opening experiences like that of like, oh wow, like that's how like you really dive into it. So it was just kind of like an eye opening experience to kind of learn how he thinks about each workout, how he approaches each session, and how he works with weaknesses. It was just super cool to get a little glimpse of like what he did for the past 5 years. Because I mean, he was doing something different than anybody else. He was a whole nother level, and obviously he's a very gifted athlete. But I don't think he was that much in front of everybody just because he was a gifted athlete. I think he was so smart about the way he trained and trained super hard. He was able to be that much above everyone else.
Really cool. How much communication did you have with him during the games?
This year?
Yeah, while you're competing.
Yeah. Honestly, not too much. I know Adam talked to him like here and there. I think I had met up with him on Thursday. He was staying in my hotel, like a couple doors down. So like he like stop by and say what's up. You know what I mean? And I never talked to him besides that coming in, and it was just like, hey man, like super cool to see you out there. Stay with it, just kind of whatever it was. And obviously after the games, like to sit down and kind of talk to him about it was pretty cool.
That's really neat. Okay, so we talked about 2020 rolling into Aromas and the mystique and the aura behind that, but we haven't competed in Madison before, but we've been watching people compete in Madison for years. What was that like coming into Madison? You're driving up the driveway and seeing the Coliseum all decked out, photos
Dude,
on the side. What was that like?
it it was nuts. I mean, I feel like I kind of went 0 to 100 like really. And like I work with the best people. I mean, between Rogue, Noble, GoWad, Podium, and just all these people, it's like I work with great people, which is so awesome. And being with Noble and it being the Noble CrossFit Games, the extent that they went with the games was unreal. I mean, I like hopped into my elevator to go up to my room and my face was on it. I was like, what the heck? Like, I was like, this is awesome. And I get up to my room and I'm looking out the window and I can see like my face on the stadium and just everything. It was just so unreal. I mean, I haven't really been around people and it's like, dude, like people actually like care about my name. You know what I mean? It's just crazy to be there and see people wearing like Medeiros shirts. And I saw like a couple people and kids and stuff have mullets
Dude,
on.
that's
I'm like,
that's
this
the next
is,
step right there.
I was like, this is the coolest freaking thing. I mean, the CrossFit community is the best, and like to have that influence on people is unreal. Because I was a fan from the sport before I was an athlete, and I volunteered at the games in
Oh, I
2015.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so I volunteered there, and like I got to see all these athletes, and I was so scared to come up like to say what's up to Rich and like and Jason Khalifa and all these guys, and now I'm one of those guys to other people, and I just want people to know, like, hey, come up and talk to me whenever. Like, I just want to be there for. And it's a little bit different, but it's just cool to be in that role now because I remember being the kid and being like, oh my gosh, guys want to say hi to them. Like, it's super cool. So it was cool to have that influence on everyone
Dude, I
else.
really loved what Noble did for the athletes right from the start with just athlete check-in and then the apparel with the locker room feel. Like that was next level.
It was cool. The whole experience that they did with it was awesome. And just like I said, I work with good people, and the team from Noble like values CrossFit and they know what they have and they love the community. And to see them like like their first year at the games and just completely buy into it, like they went full out for everything. And this is just the beginning, is what they're telling me. So I'm really excited what next year's going to be also.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot with a little. They had
Yeah.
very little time to prep for that, so I thought they did a fantastic job for the undertaking that was set forth before them. All right, so we're on site. Your face is on the side of the Coliseum and on elevators. And does that disrupt your nerves at all when you're getting set for day number one?
I just think it's so weird. I'm like, why do they want my face up there? You know what I mean? Like, there's all these like, like Brent Fikowski and Patrick Vellner, like all these guys, and it's just so weird that that's me now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just super weird. And but yeah, also from the other aspects is like I definitely felt the pressure. I mean, I went from 0 to 100 really quick, and all these awesome brands wanted to work with me. And now I feel like I'm not only representing myself, I'm like representing them. And you look at the Noble team; they had 7 or 8 women at the CrossFit Games that they represent, and I was the only male that they represented at the
Oh,
CrossFit
I didn't know
Games.
that.
Yeah, so I was only. I mean, they have a lot of other male athletes. I was the only one that was at the CrossFit Games, and then
Oh,
so I was like,
no
and I
pressure,
just
bro.
my first year, I was like, I don't want them to think that they made the wrong choice. And I know 3, 2, 1 podium like is not about podiuming; it's just giving your best effort to like what you're doing. But it's called podium. Like I want to be on the podium, you know what I mean? So and I knew they would have supported me no matter what. But it was really cool to represent those brands and feel like come through with it because they helped me get there in the first place.
So let's talk about the weekend. We won't go event by event, but I just kind of want to go through, riding that roller coaster of the weekend. Is, I mean, one thing you was unbelievably consistent. Each event that you come to, it's obviously there's a focus on that, but how do you and Adam work together event to event, knowing how things are starting to unfold on the leaderboard?
Yeah, and we definitely talk about that, and you just want to put yourself in a position to be successful at the end of the weekend. And that doesn't happen by just focusing at the end of the weekend. Like that happens by focusing on each workout. Like you treat each workout like this is the last workout of the CrossFit Games. Like talked about going to each workout. Hey, it's like we die for points out there. Like if it's one person, you sell your soul to beat that one person. Because if you look at the leaderboard at the end of the weekend, like 2 points separate a lot of people. And a lot of people look at that and they're like, oh, the last workout he needed to beat him. Like, no, there was workout number 5 where he let someone pass him at the end. You know what I mean? And I just wanted that feeling to walk through after each workout and be like, no, that was everything I had. I might have got beat or passed, or maybe I passed some people, but I don't want to question that was my best effort. You don't want to like, oh, I should have like went for it, or you know what I mean? Because you don't want to question it at the end of the weekend. And I feel like I did a good job at that. And I gave it my best effort, but there was definitely times where I left points on the board and left a bitter taste in my mouth.
Well, I mean, I think you learned your lesson from the hill sprint from 2020, where
For sure.
hopefully that was the last time you just let someone walk past you.
Do that.
Any events in particular coming in, because you get a limited sample size of what's released and what's not. Of the 15 events, which one was your favorite one just right off when it was announced?
Dude, I honestly didn't really have too many where I was like super fired up about. I mean, looking back on them, I definitely have some events like, dude, that is an event I will remember for the rest of my life. But like looking at it is just, I remember listening to one of the documentaries with Matt Fraser. He's like, hey, I trained to not have a wheelhouse. And that kind of like rung home for me, is where you kind of don't know what workout's going to be your best workout. You kind of do them and then you're like, oh shoot, like I won that one, you know what I mean? And
I'm good at this.
I'm just like, oh, this is my workout. I'm gonna do it. You walk into it and then you get like 6, which is still really good, but then you're like, I thought I was gonna win. You view that 6th place now as a disappointment rather than an achievement. And I think just kind of not having that emotion, bringing each workout, it's like, hey, I'm going out there to compete. This is my plan, and I'm going to try to execute that plan to the best of my ability. And that's what I did for each workout. But given that, I just think one of the coolest things about the CrossFit Games is doing events, like doing some of the events, because you only can do some of those events at the CrossFit, and that's what fired me up the most. Because in 2015, when I volunteered, that was the year they had the pegboard, they had like a wheelbarrow sandbag like push. It was all this stuff. I'm like, dude, that would be so freaking fun to do. And anytime anything like that came up this year, I was like, I have no idea how I'm gonna do, but this is gonna be super fun to go out there and flip the pig and do a swim kayak workout and all this stuff. So having just those different events that you only can do at the CrossFit Games is super cool to be a part of.
Yeah, it makes it very special. And there's always, like you said, there's always events that can only be done there. They can be replicated in some kind of way, but you're not going to get a 3-mile straight kayak around the lake.
No,
right?
no.
One of the events that I really, Dave talks about this a lot when he watches the competitions unfold, is like there's certain moments that happen on the weekend where you go, okay, I think that's a champion moment. And one of those moments for me watching you was actually an event 6 at the end of the run clean event, where you came up behind Vellner and Fikowski, where they had an opportunity to beat you on the last bar. They both missed, and then you hit. And the celebration I got from you there was looked like more than when you won the whole thing.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, I don't even know what happened right there. I had probably the biggest adrenaline dump I've had all year, like my whole experience with CrossFit. I went and into that workout, and you just know Patrick and Brent, and we're kind of getting event 6. Like we're not even halfway through the weekend, but it's starting to kind of shake out. We're like, okay, these are the guys that I'm gonna have to beat. You know what I mean? And the whole workout, we're all just like bouncing back and forth in between each other. It's like, okay, like if I want to win, like I just got to beat these guys in workouts. And I saw the opportunity to do it, and I just, knowing that they dropped it and I hit it and crossed that finish line, like I lost my shit. You know what I mean? And that's what I was telling you before. Like you don't know what workouts those are going to be. Like I thought that was going to be a really good workout for me, and I didn't win the workout. I didn't even win my heat. But when I crossed the line, I treated it as an event win, and I won the CrossFit Games at event number. You know what I mean? And it was just super cool to have those moments, because taking it back, like I said earlier, was in Ireland. I was like, hey, act like you've been here before. Don't celebrate. Do all these things, and that's constantly running through my mind. I didn't get to soak in some of those moments, and I feel like this year at the games, like I had moments like that where I was like, no, I'm just letting it all out right now, and that moment was super cool. I remember going back and like seeing Adam in the back, like, dude, I need to calm down right now. I am so jacked up. I was like, I need to take this way back down. So that was a really cool moment for me, and like one of the top moments I think I'll have like in CrossFit.
That was really cool. That was special to watch. And that's event 6, and I mean event 6. You still have 9 more events to go, and what was that, day 2?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, we gotta reel it in a little bit. We got an event 7 that's heavier than what we just did.
Yeah.
All right. So you go through that. I want to take you to the final day, because you talked about Brent Fikowski and Pat Vellner, keeping up with them. If I'm gonna win, I'm gonna have to beat these guys, and that's exactly how the weekend was shaping up, and especially Pat Vellner, because it felt like since I want to look at this, since event number 11, Pat was just like chipping points away from you.
Yeah.
But I mean, you weren't going away, right? It's like, Pat would get a 3rd and you get like a 4th, or Pat would get a 1st and you get 2nd. But, you come into the final day and, you had an unreal finish, but there was still that Vellner was not going away. So what was it like coming into the final day of competition, event 13, knowing what's on the line so far?
Yeah, and I think that's what we talked about all week, was like, hey, we got to put ourselves in a position to win when we come to the last day. The leaderboard does not matter. I mean, you see how much it like bounces back and forth, and how one event can completely change it up. But when you're 12 events deep in a weekend, like there starts to be separation. You know kind of where you're at. And you're like, okay, like this is the reality of the situation. And I wanted to be in a situation going to the final day where I was like, hey, I just got to do what I need to do. I don't need to hope for other athletes. He was in the position where, like, hey, he had to beat me and hope other athletes finished. And that was something I did not want going into a final workout. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I want to put my fate in my hands and not have to hope for anybody else. And that's what it was. And we really looked at the leaderboard. We were very aware of the points and what I had to do, and I needed to beat him, or if I couldn't beat him, I needed to stay really close to him. And I think I went 3rd, 2nd, 1st in the final day.
3-2-1 champion. That's quite the way to end the Sunday at the CrossFit Games. So that you come in event 13, Vellner gets 2nd, you get 3rd, and then free handstand push-ups get announced.
Yeah.
What was the first reaction when you saw that right in front of you?
It was like one of those things where first reaction was I was super pumped. I was like, this is the things I love about the CrossFit Games. You know what I mean? There's no practice for it. We just got told this event. It's a completely new movement, and we get to go out there and do it. I was like, let's go. And about 5 seconds later, I was like, wait, like, this is a new movement. I have and we're at the CrossFit Games, and a title's on the line. You know what I mean? So the emotions were like flip-flopping back and forth, but I was super excited about it, and I knew it was going to be a really fun event, and I did not know what was going to happen with it. But
that was an epic finish, back to head to head with you and Vellner. That was so cool. I can only assume in your head, like, oh, Dave, you got us. That was so great. Classic Dave. You're like, oh crap, I have to do this.
Yeah, it's like, oh wait.
Oh wait, this is me. Well, and the standard was interesting. The one thing I got to do was in the athlete briefing. So they briefed the event, free handstand push-ups for the first time at the CrossFit Games, and then they take you guys back where it's basically Boz going through how to do it with Scuds and the demo team. And that might have been the longest event athlete movement briefing I have ever seen, because it was just like hand, question. What was that like, just sitting and watching people panic?
It was like he briefed it, and we're like, okay, yeah, like we got it. He showed us a good rep, and I'm like, okay, we asked a couple questions. It was good. And he's like, okay, now we're going to show what a bad rep looks like. And then they showed a bad rep, and we were like, wait, what was the difference? Like, and then everyone's hands were like, everyone shot up. And we were like, what? That was a bad rep? Like, it looked the same one as the first one, because what the problem was is the rep starts at the bottom, press, you push hand, and your arms have to be locked out, then you descend. So then when bad rep, it went hand, and as this hand was coming down, they just fell into it. But it looked the same because they wanted like step, and have like control locked out and then lower. and the other one was like step and then like lower into it. It was weird. They looked very similar.
Oh,
Yeah.
that reminds me. I actually had this conversation with Bill Grunler about the 2011 regionals that had the hundreds event that had kettlebell swings in it, and that was the discrepancy between good and bad reps for kettlebell swings that year. There's never been kettlebell swings programmed ever since then, because we're at an athlete briefing and they show a photo because there was a bunch of fallout at a previous regional. I think this was like week 3 or 4. And the head guy was like, all right, here's a photo of a good rep. And you just see this kettlebell.
Yeah.
And it's like, and here's a bad one. I'm like, that was the same photo. We're screwed, guys.
You ever watch the
Yes.
corporate needs you to find the 7 different YouTube photos. They're the exact same photo.
Oh, that's so great. That would be really funny. It's like Boz is like, hey, watch this. You want to see you want to see 60 athletes panic? Show them a bad rep quote.
Yeah.
Well, that was cool. That ended up being such an amazing finish between you and Pat, and everything on the line, and you just hung in there tight and back and forth, and I thought you were gonna have it, and then we fell, and then like Pat fell. Like, dude, that was one of the craziest races I've ever seen.
Dude, I was not irritated about that workout, but so if you failed a rep, you went back a line. And I was doing it, I think it's 14 or whatever it is in the last section. And I was going, and my judge is like, 12, okay, 13. And then I like come down from the 13th one, and I like take a break before I go to the last one, but I'm on the last line already. And I like looked, and I like went to run, because once your hands on the last line, you're done. He's like, no, wait, you have one more. I was like, my hands are on the last line. I was like, you have one more. I was like, okay. I'm like, but where do I go? There's not another line. He told me to go back, and then I did another. But what happened is earlier on in the workout, he forgot to tell me to go back a line. So I was on the last line, but I only did 13 reps. So I still had one more. It was a big confusion, and I was irritated.
Yeah, I remember watching it. I remember people like freaking out. They're like, that's such. And you're right. I think going back, there was a moment where like we didn't move back a line, but up a line, but you ended up doing 14. But like that was crazy. That was super crazy. But hey, you did what you needed to do. Vellner gets first, and you just still got out a second place finish.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to the end, right? And you just said earlier is like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and hope everybody does my job for me. So you coming into the last event, you're talking to Adam. What's the discussion going into the final event?
There's a lot of nerves. Like, it's like we both knew what was on the line, but we're trying not to make it a bigger deal than it was. And it was just a different type of workout. And we were like kind of looking at it. We had our strategy, and it was a conservative one. And then we were going to play it by ear kind of as it goes to see like what we needed to do. And we're like, okay, like if Pat beats you, like he needs 4 other people, or another thing is 5 people to finish in between. Yeah, 5. So I was very aware of that, and we were in the lanes right next to each other. So like the plan was like, hey, stay as close to him like as you can. So I mean, the row was kind of irrelevant, and then it came into the pull-ups, and that was where I was nervous about, because I knew if we got to the lunges, I was like, I can hold my own on lunges, but 90 chest to bar pull-ups, like you don't know what's gonna happen. Like my plan was like, okay, we'll do 15. It was 6 bars, and you had to do 15 bar. I was like, okay, I'll start out with 15. And I'll probably do 15 the next one. Then I'll go into like 8 sevens. If that gets hard, I'll go into 3 sets of 5 and just kind of chip away as we go. The goal is to stay moving. And I started, and then I'm on the 4th bar, and I'm still doing 15. I'm broken. I'm like, oh no. I like looked over. I was in front of him, and I was like, and the kind of at that moment, I didn't know I was going to win the workout, but I was like, I got this. You know what I mean? And then I slowed down. I did 8-7, 8-7 to finish the last 2, just to be conservative, and then attack those lunges.
Dude,
that
was
yeah, I was yeah, we talked about it, but we like weren't sure if it was going to be a good idea or not, and then I'm going for it. I felt it like pop over, and the whole crowd got loud, and I was like, oh, right now. I had so much adrenaline for me. I could have got that next line, put it overhead, and kept going. But it was super cool moment. I mean, my family was at the end of the finish line, and I did not know that they were there.
Yeah. Talked about that, right? Okay. You're winning the event. You're marching towards the finish line. You have a bar over your head. At what point in that did you see your mom and dad?
Till I crossed the finish line and looked up. Like, I did not see them the whole time because I knew where they were in the crowd. They're way to my right. And the front row, like directly to my right, as you're going down the competition floor. So I didn't even think to look. I don't want to look at someone. I'm not trying to make contact lunging across. I'm just kind of like looking down at the finish line, like, hey, that's where I got to go. That's where I got to go. And I kind of went and I crossed the finish line and kind of looked up and saw him there. And I was like, I don't even know what to do right now. You know what I mean? But it was just like, holy shoot, I just did it. You know what I mean?
And what was really special for me is, like, look, I got kids, and for me this year, this was probably the most emotional finale in 15 years of CrossFit for me. Like, you had Scott Panchek retiring and that whole thing with his family, and I was like, oh God, I'm a mess. And I'm on a broadcast. I was like, I gotta stop crying. And then the Annie Thorstadter return and what she did, but like then you coming to the end. What's really special for me is, like, I have a very, very special relationship with my father.
Yeah.
And through athletics, he did everything he could to give me every opportunity to be successful, no matter what it was. And you seem to have that a very similar tie to your entire family and your whole support system. And what I love to do is, people do this. I'm not the only one, but like I look at different things different ways. Like at a wedding, I look at the groom and the bride walks through the door. I don't look at her.
Yeah.
And at the finale, I wasn't watching you. I was watching your dad.
Yeah.
And man, that hit home in a lot of really personal ways for me. And it was so cool to see that. And, you've said this a lot in this podcast, but you wanted to do it for them. You didn't want to let them down, whether it was family, sponsors, or fans. What did that mean for you personally to do it for them?
Unreal. I mean, it's so hard to put into words everything that they've done for me. I mean, they made it possible. You know what I mean? I've done sports my whole life, and they just supported me in whatever I wanted to do and made sure I had the tools in my belt to make sure that I could do that. And they're amazing. I mean, just going into college, I wanted to wrestle, and then they cut the wrestling program, and I really love competing, and I kind of just took that into CrossFit. But no one looks at CrossFit as like a sport like that, like in a sense, like from the outside looking in. Like my friends are like, "You're gonna do
now,
CrossFit
so you work
now?
out really
like,
fast.
like,
What's the deal?"
yeah, he's that, and like you get made fun of, but like, dude, like you're really like not gonna go out tonight. I'm like, no, I gotta train tomorrow. You know what I mean? And people's like, it's so dumb, but they were there and allowed me to do that. Like I didn't get a job. I like just focused on competing. Did this. They said, hey, this is your dream while you're in school. Like, do it. Like, give everything you have into it, and when you're done with school and you don't feel like it's happening, then you're going to move on to bigger and better things. But this is the time in your life right now where you can pour everything into it and see what's possible. And that was the plan. And like my friends are getting jobs and working, and I'm just like working out in the garage. And I'm like, is this worth it? Like I'm doing it. My parents are sacrificing so much for me to be able to follow this dream. And I'm like, I don't even know if it's going to pay off. And to kind of cross that finish line and kind of have that feeling like, dude, I was like, dude, I just did it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I freaking did it. And all I wanted to do was just make the CrossFit Games. And now that like to win it and have so many people be a part of it. Like it wasn't me winning the CrossFit Games. I mean, it was my mom, my dad, like my friends, my girlfriend, like my sponsors, and just it was a whole group of people that made this happen. And like I was getting drug tested. I'm like, dude, like, what are you gonna do? Like, where are you gonna go? I'm like, dude, I just need to go see my family. Like, I am so pumped to see people right now. Like, they made this happen, and to share that moment with them is, yeah.
I mean, hey, the dream is a reality. You won the 2021 CrossFit Games. Has that sunk in yet for you?
It would hit in like spurts, you know what I mean? I mean, even like random times during this podcast, I'm getting the chills talking about some of these workouts and feelings, and that's kind of how it is. Like it doesn't feel real. I'm like back here at school, like training out of my garage gym, and it's like this feels like nothing ever changed. You know what I mean? Like I'm just here grinding away. I'm in school and training my butt off in my garage, And it's just crazy. And like kind of here and there, like someone's like, dude, like you won the CrossFit Games, you know what I mean? Or they're asking me about, I'm like, dude, what was that like? And then I start telling them about it, and I get the chills again. You know what I mean? Uh, it's pretty crazy because I feel like nothing's changed, but then when I like look back and reflect on those moments, it's like wow, that happened.
That's really cool. And one thing I tell new athletes when they say compete for the first time, and a lot of time you're in the gym training or you're in the garage, you're like, okay, what am I doing? Is this even the right thing to do? And then you do a competition or something like that, and it completely shifts the focus of training. Like, oh, okay, this is what I need to work on.
Yeah.
For you, all those things you did over the last year and a half since, you're first getting on the scene on the CrossFit Games side, something is working. Things are getting better. What excitement does that bring to your training after winning the CrossFit Games?
I think so much because if I just did that competition by myself at the CrossFit gym and I hit the same times and everyone else did it all by themselves and it's like, hey, at the end of the weekend, you won. I would have not believed them. You know what I mean? No way I won. You know what I mean? Like I only snatched like you look at each workout and like when we look at the workout, like, okay, this time is what's possible. And then this is what I need to do to try to get that time. And sometimes I don't get there. You know what I mean? You just kind of have this framework of a workout. And I look at some of these workouts, oh, Matt would have like done this during that workout and blew me out of the water. And I look at so many workouts like that. I'm not trying to take away from what I've done, but there's a whole nother level that I feel like I can get to. Like I don't feel like I'm the fittest on earth because I feel like I have so many holes still in my game and so many things that I could work towards. And that's what fires me. It doesn't matter if I got first or 15th. Like I have so much more that I can work on. And not saying I'm gonna get better at them, but like that's what I'm gonna train for all year. I feel like I have so much more that I can improve on, and that's the exciting thing because I definitely don't feel like I'm the fittest on earth because there's so much more to go. And just looking back, like you see Matt standing up on top of the podium and Rich Ferroni, and I'm like, I feel like I'm not even close to being on the same level as those guys. You know what I mean? Just like I just feel like we're up here, and that's what I'm shooting for. So it's exciting to know that there's a lot more room to grow.
That's exciting for you, but that's scary for some other people if that's the approach you're taking in the off season. So, what's next? What do you have coming up as far as competition? What's your training ramping up going to look like? When do we start preparing for 2022?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think first and foremost, like I got to take an off season. I've never really done it before. In the past year and a half, it just feels like it's been going right into each other. I mean, the Open in 2019 was in March. Next Open was in October, so it was kind of like a short off season. And then I did Ireland, and I was training for the games. Then it got pushed back, and it just feels like it's all been compiling. And now I'm like, everyone's been telling me to take time off, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll try this time off thing. I've never taken more than 2 or 3 days, so I took the past month off. It's been so weird working out again. I feel so unfit. I'm just getting kind of back into training right now, and Rogue's coming up, and I'm going to do everything I can to be as prepared as I can be. But it's weird having a month off, and I'm only 2 months out from a competition. So really curious. I think it's gonna be a really cool learning experience to kind of see how fit I can get in 2 months. So I'm really excited to see that process. But ultimately, this is the off season, and the goal next year is to win the CrossFit Games. So when January, February rolls around, like that's when the season starts, and that's when I'm training to win the 2022 CrossFit Games.
Well, that's awesome, man. Listen, I want to congratulate you on winning in 2021. I think you are an amazing champion. You represent the community well. You represent the brand well. The way you competed all weekend, props to you. 2015 was when you volunteered at the CrossFit Games, and that was the last time someone not named Matt Fraser won. And now it's you. Justin Medeiros, thank you for your time, man. Good luck. Enjoy your off season. I'm excited to see you at Rogue. And man, have a great time and I appreciate your time, dude. Good luck for the rest of the season.
Yeah, man. Dude, thanks for